Live from WTOC, the Southeast news leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Welcome back to The News on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Bankley. Leilani Simon, the mother convicted of murdering her toddler son Quentin and throwing him in a dumpster, appeared in a court today to appeal that conviction. Simon's attorney, who took on the case to handle the appeal, argued in front of Judge Tammy Stokes that Simon should be acquitted of her murder charges and should be granted a new trial on other counts she was accused of. Simon was convicted on 19 counts by a Chatham County jury back in 2024 on charges including murder, making false statements, and concealing the death of another. This is something we covered extensively back then on WTOC. Her appellate attorney, David Locke, says she should be acquitted of the murder charges because there was a lack of physical evidence in the case and murder wasn't proven. However, Quentin's remains were found in a Chatham County landfill after an extensive search by the Chatham County Police Department and FBI. His remains were so damaged that when they were found, experts testified in the trial that it was impossible to tell how he died.
An autopsy could not be done since all that was found or submitted to the medical examiner were bones of the child. Obviously, suicide is not in play, but accident or natural death, we don't believe, was excluded.
That was Simon's attorney speaking, and during her trial back in 2024, prosecutor Tim Dean addressed the lack of physical evidence with the jury, telling them that if Leilani was not convicted because of it, it was, quote, bringing her plan to completion. Now, the state opted to respond to Locke's arguments in writing rather than in court. They have 45 days to respond, and then a ruling will be made after that. Well, this was the scene in downtown Savannah yesterday as groups protested the fatal shooting of a woman in Minneapolis earlier this week. In Minnesota, state investigators say the FBI has shut them out of the probe into the deadly shooting of Renee Good. In a news conference yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance said that the agent who fired the deadly shots has, quote, absolute immunity from state prosecution. Nicole Scanger reports on the investigation into Good's death.
It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on Thursday criticized the Trump administration's decision to remove state investigators from what began as a joint effort with the FBI to examine the shooting death of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said it would no longer have access to the case materials, scene evidence, or investigative interviews.
Without any of that, we would not be able to put together a quality investigation for any prosecutor.
CBS News has confirmed the agent who shot Good is Jonathan Ross, who has worked with ICE in Minnesota for nearly a decade and was involved in another vehicle-related incident in June. Court documents show he was dragged approximately 100 yards with his arm inside a car while trying to execute an immigration warrant in nearby Bloomington. Vice President J.D. Vance referenced that case Thursday as he defended Ross's use of force.
Dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
John Sandweg served as an acting ICE director during the Obama administration.
I have no doubt that officer genuinely felt like his life was threatened. The question is, was that a reasonable belief? Those videos are incredibly hard to watch, but they are not alone sufficient to draw a firm conclusion about exactly what happened here.
Federal law enforcement officials tell CBS News there are now roughly 2,400 DHS agents and officers on the ground here in the Minneapolis area, and that number could continue to grow. Nicole Scanger, CBS News, Minneapolis.
All right, well, now we're taking a live look at Capitol Hill on your right, where there was a blockbuster vote last night as the House of Representatives passed a bill to extend Affordable Care Act tax credit subsidies for 3 years. 17 Republicans broke rank voting with Democrats. However, it likely will not reach the president's desk. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says there's, quote, no appetite to extend the old program. Instead, he says they're focused on ongoing bipartisan talks between the House and Senate. The tax credits expired at the end of 2025, causing premiums to spike for millions of Americans. Well, NASA is making an unusual move to pull astronauts home early, aimed to keep one of them safe after a medical issue. Officials haven't said what the issue was, just that one of the crew on the International Space Station had a, quote, medical situation and is now stable. That astronaut and 3 others will come back to Earth in the days ahead. The U.S. will still maintain a presence on the station, and a new crew is set to replace the outgoing one to get staffing back to normal. Back here on Earth, the only way on and off Tybee Island will remain the same for now. The Island City Council unanimously voted against the Georgia Department of Transportation's updated proposals. Members, including Tony Plow, said they appreciated GDOT's ideas and support their involvement in improving safety on the major roadway. But with the 70% of people who disapproved the plans at GDOT's Highway 80 opening last month, they decided to go against it, and that plan would have split the corridor into 3 segments: Lazaretto Creek to Teresa Lane to Jones Avenue, and Jones Avenue to Tybee Street. Each segment would have had 3 alternate proposals, which you can find on our website right now. GDOT says there's been more than 680 crashes from that area from 2013 to mid-2024. We are waiting to hear from GDOT about the next steps, so stick with WTOC for updates. In South Carolina, a Navy veteran and the South Carolina Public Interest Foundation are asking the state Supreme Court to step in, challenging Governor Henry McMaster's deployment of National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. The petition argues the governor exceeded his authority under South Carolina law when he sent roughly 300 guardsmen to the nation's capital last November to support law enforcement operations. Under state law, the Guard may only be activated for specific emergencies, including war, rebellion, or public disaster. Petitioners say none of those conditions exist in Washington and that routine law enforcement missions outside the state are not allowed. They also argue the deployment was not requested by local officials and doesn't qualify under interstate emergency agreements. The lawsuit asks the court to declare the deployment unlawful and block future actions, warning that delays could allow further misuse of Guard resources and raise serious questions about executive power and the rule of law. Well, looking ahead, Savannah City leaders met to discuss celebrations and planning for the upcoming Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend. One event is a major milestone for the Savannah community. It's the renaming of the Civic Center. On Saturday, January 17th, the Savannah Civic Center will be renamed the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Civic Center. Mayor Van Johnson says everyone is welcome to come witness history.
Well, it's always a variety, a plethora of events that occur during the weekend. But for this particular event, it is one of the opportunities to go back in time. I remember as a college student when they were working toward making MLK a holiday. People here in the city had a huge citywide observance service in the Savannah Civic Center. So we're going to have a citywide observance dedication.
Again, that will be Saturday the 17th, starting with a tour at 1 p.m., followed by the dedication itself at 3 p.m. Well, when a medical emergency happens, every second matters. A referee is alive today because of the quick actions of those around him. The referee suffered a heart attack while officiating a high school basketball game. Randy McElvoy has the story from Texas.
Inside the Fulshear High School gym, Al Burgess is back. He's not here to work a game. Instead, the longtime basketball official has returned to face and process a moment that nearly took his life.
Oh, man, that was the spot.
On December 2nd, during a boys' basketball game, Burgess suddenly collapsed on the court.
And everything's starting to look like a dimmer switch.
At that point, every second mattered Athletic Director Stephen Hill, Assistant Trainer Jessica Blaine, and Officer Charles Crocker stepped in. Burgess's heart had stopped, and it was then that instincts and training took over.
As I looked at Jessica and I said, right now he doesn't have a pulse. I said, this man is not dying on my watch. I said, let's get to work.
It's weird because I don't remember that much because like the alter ego just kicked in the moment. I knew I had to do what I had to do.
Working together through CPR and a defibrillator, an electric shock was delivered within 1 minute and 40 seconds. That teamwork saved Al Burgess's life.
Being able to see him walk in here, finding hope is my process and knowing, like, you know what, I did the right thing, it's okay.
You know, we all go through training as coaches, and sometimes we're sitting in the training, so we're like, why am I going through this training that we've been? Al Burgess is like, you go through those trainings. Your granddaughter. Emotional right now, man. Yes, happy too.
This morning, during a faculty meeting to honor the three heroes, a surprise moment came when Burgess also returned. Smiling, emotional, and celebrating his second chance in life.
Really, it's like getting a chance to thank the people that are responsible for me being here.
Off the court for now, today was a victory on Al Burgess's 72nd birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Really special right there. A little bit of good news to start your weekend. We do have one thing left, though, before we sign off here on WTOC Plus, because if you play the New York Times puzzle, Wordle, we've just found out the hardest word for Georgia in 2025, believe it or not. Research from the company Unscrambler found that the word whole, W-H-O-L-E, was the hardest one to guess in the Peach State last year. It stumped players on July 27th. The study also found that throughout the whole year, Georgia players searched for Wordle hints on Google almost 1.5 million times. Nationally, the most difficult Wordle last year was on May 11th. That word was dowel, D-O-W-E-L. All right, and with that, we are going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. We'd like to wish you all a very happy Friday. Try to stay cool this weekend because we're looking at potential record-setting temps tomorrow for the highs, and then a quick swing back to cool temperatures. Dave Turley will have much more on that coming up at 3 o'clock during the forecast on Welcome to Our Community. And in the meantime, you can always head on over to our website for the latest updates at WTOC.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll now join Local News Live in progress.